President Biden back out on the road in Georgia today, pushing this $1 trillion spending plan, education, health care, jobs. It's a vision that he laid out in that address to Congress. The New York Times describes it as a call for big government.
My American Families Plan guarantees 4 additional years of public education for every person in America, starting as early as we can. So we guarantee that low and middle income families will pay no more than 7% of their income for high-quality care for children up to the age of 5. The American Family Plan puts directly into the pockets of millions of Americans.
That's what the president says. What does the public think? We'll take a look at new polling. The majority of people under 35, seniors, lower-income earners, middle class, high earners, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Democrats, Independents. You can see how many people think the government should do more. On the other side, there are Republicans and white Americans who have a different view. So is Biden trying to change America, or has Biden already started moving much of America? We welcome to the program Daniela Gibbs-Leger and Michael Seal back with us. Good evening. Daniela, what do you think about the core point here that Biden now appears to be moving on spending in big government from a position of broad strength?
I think that's 100% correct. You know, we talk a lot in D.C. about what it means to be bipartisan, and I think we have to take it out of the conversation of what's happening in Congress and look at what the American people actually support. And when you pull apart the parts of the American family, there is a broad support in this country for President Biden. There is a needed desire for the government to work for the American people, not just the wealthy, but for everyone. And so you see President Biden tapping into that and explaining.
Let me jump in and also play a little bit of, I mentioned to viewers last night, we were at the White House, and I have another piece of it that Jen Psaki spoke to me about that we haven't played yet. Let's take a look at that.
And a big part of his vision is, okay, we've stemmed the emergency, we've stemmed the crisis, we've started to stem the crisis, but how do we build for the next generation? That's what the American Jobs Plan will do. That's what the American Families Plan will do. So part of this is going to be forward-looking about what the future can look like for the next generation.
That was the pitch, Michael, and I'll mention we're working on other audio issues, but on that point, Michael, I also want to read from how this is playing. The New York Times tries to basically play it straight as they interpret these kind of big speeches and events. I was struck by what they see here. They call it a breathtaking scope of change sought by a 78-year-old president who spent a lifetime as a more conventional lawmaker. After presenting himself during last year's campaign as a transition candidate, they write, he's following the volatile tenure of Trump. Mr. Biden has, since his inauguration, positioned himself as a transformational president. Michael.
Actually, I would agree with that. In fact, throughout much of the campaign, going back to the week he announced, when I said on our air here that Biden would be not just the nominee, but likely the next president, it was in that space that he now, I think, appropriately occupies as a transitional, transformational style president. Now, what that ultimately plays out to be remains to be seen, obviously. But what the president has done is he's staked a big goal. He's actually staked his presidency on that transformation. He staked his presidency on that transition away from Trumpism and the transformation into a better America that is global in one sense, right, in terms of our redefined and new relationships broadly speaking globally, but transformational here at home, where we now no longer look at our neighbor as other, but recognize that we're kind of all in this soup together, and we all have to pull together to get some of these big things done. This is going to be the next test from where I'm sitting to see if he's able to do this. Put it all out here very big, Ari. This is the grand vision. This is the goal for America. But then serve up pieces of it, because he recognizes he's not going to get $6 trillion worth of change done in the next year, right, before the next election. But he probably can get $1.2 trillion more of change done. He's already gotten the $2 trillion on COVID. He could probably get another $1 trillion in infrastructure. And I'll help Republicans, using Biden's voice here, I'll help Republicans define what infrastructure is. So I think he has an opportunity to put the Republicans in a position where they're going to actually have to come and say what they're for as opposed to what they're against. We all know what that is. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does that.
And as you say, I mean, for those of us who've covered or lived through these battles over the decades, the references to quote-unquote big government used to be pejorative on the Goldilocks idea that it was too big and wasn't working. And right now, Joe Biden leaned into that last night. He really detailed the case. Well, it's big to meet the scale of the challenge and the problems. Why would you want to go small at this moment? And I thought that was striking. Right. That's the other thing I wanted to play from, as mentioned, being at the White House and their optimism. This is Jen Psaki, I think viewers know, and the White House communications director talking, again, airing for the first time because we had more sound than we got to use, but talking about their approach to that speech. Now that we've heard it, let's take a look.
The most important thing is for people across the country not to feel like you're talking down to them or speaking in some arcane sort of industry terminology that doesn't mean anything to the average person.
He really wants to make sure my mother and my cousins are understanding what he has to see.
He always says to us, I want the people in the neighborhood that I grew up in Scranton, to know exactly what I'm saying when I talk about this.
That was their goal before the speech. Your view, bottom line, did he meet that standard of clarity last night?
I think he did. I really do. I think he has for some time. I think he has brought the American people along in this conversation, going back to before he became president, certainly during the transition. And I think he now has their attention, and we'll see how well he's able to hold it. Look, I'm prepared to fight the president on some of these big ticket items because there's a whole lot of money that's about to be spent. And we got to be clear about what that means and how it impacts not just our future, but most importantly, our current economic situation. But the reality of it is I'm willing, like a lot of folks are, to listen to what you have to say, to see what you put on the table, and let's begin the debate. And I'm hoping my party gets past, the easy gotcha, and talking about Dr. Seuss, and instead puts together a plan that they think can compete up against what the president is offering. And let's have that debate across the country.
All great points, as always, from Michael Steele on more than one issue. And I will say, Michael and I, we wanted to hear from Daniela as well. The audio issues prevented that. I would never normally speak for you, Michael, but I think I could say for both of us, we're sorry we didn't have her. We'll fix that up and get her next time. And good to see you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.